Okay, so we are live. Before we begin, I just have a tendency to talk so much, and then when I do that, so I forget to properly glorify the gurus and this thing. So we're going to just begin by offering our pranams to the gurus from which this wisdom is coming from, namely Swami Srila Prabhupada and the lineage in which he comes in, from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all the way back to Krishna himself. So if you know these prayers, chant along. Oh, very nice. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Jana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishna Slavitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svabhadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishak Anvitanscha Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhani Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschitya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srila Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, welcome. Special welcome to Lolita. Nice to see you back. It's been. When did we see you last? Diwali, maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
I see you on Sunday.
Hopefully, we see her this Sunday.
Yes.
But we have seen her in Sundays past. I think that's what Kaushik was saying.
Yes.
So, but it would be very nice to have you in our midst. We've been reading the Upadeshamrita. Luckily, we're only on verse 1, so you didn't miss too much. This Prabhupada has given, this is actually by Rupa Goswami, which is, I can't tell which one is Rupa of these 6 Goswamis here. But Rupa Goswami is, we actually chant a verse all the time. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Goret Vishe Namaha. So Rupa Goswami actually composed that verse about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how he is the most merciful incarnation. And he's given what no other incarnation of Krishna has ever given. Krishna was quite strict actually. He came here when he gave Bhagavad Gita, he wanted everything. He said, Sarva Dharman Prityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Abandon all dharma and just surrender unto me. He wanted 100% from everybody. And if you couldn't give him 100%, then okay. It was going to be hard for you to get Krishna's mercy. But actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he came only 500 years ago and established the Sankirtan movement, he gave everybody a place from which they can begin and start spiritual life. So this Upadeshamrita actually is going to take you from the lowest spot all the way up to the highest spot. It's very condensed and you'll need a lot of context for each verse, and it's not like, okay, you can just study these 11 verses and you'll have everything all on your own, because honestly you'll need more. But this is going to give you the essence, a really good taster of what this path, where it goes, what it leads to, and then how to do that can be expanded. Each verse can be expanded so many times over. So we're talking about this. So the verse itself we're on is verse 1. What we read, the verse goes, Vacha vegam manasakroda vegam jiva vegam ururapasta vegam etan vegan yovishaheta diraha sarvam apimam pritibimsa shishya. And it means a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So this is a nice verse because this is actually telling you who is qualified to be guru. And this is a huge part of our process, is that we need guru in our life. We're very conditioned living entities. We can't tolerate our urges to speak. We're not tolerating our mind's demands. The actions of anger are not being controlled. And the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals are not being controlled. And we're finding ourselves in much difficulty due to these things. So, like for instance, the urge to speak. Frogs have this urge to speak. They're always croaking. Whatever. If that's a frog sound, that's the best I've got. But what actually happens, they can sing so much in their frog sounds. But do you know that's actually how they get, the snake detects them, is they croak and they croak and they croak and they croak. And then the snake will find them and devour them. So similarly in this world, we always are very enthusiastic to speak, but we don't have anything worthwhile to speak about. So maybe we speak about all kinds of nonsense things. Oh, did you see what happened at the cricket match? Or this is the new political view. Oh, did you see the... It's so funny, I always use cricket now. I've never watched a game of cricket in my life, but I speak with so many Indians, so now I try to be relatable. But yeah, or this video game happened, or did you see this TV show, this movie, this anime? All these things are temporary, all these things are really frivolous types of things to be speaking about. So how do we tolerate the urge to speak? Does anyone know?
Concentrating my mind on Krishna.
Yes. So that means how will the minds encourage you to speak?
Listening.
What?
Shravana.
Well, first you'd have to do Shravanam to have anything worth speaking. But you repeat what you hear about Krishna. This is what one should speak about. Topics, subject matters relating to Krishna. Subject matters relating to the absolute truth. Maybe it doesn't have to do with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but things that are of a higher nature. I don't know. Let's say if you're a Christian, you're speaking about the Bible and its teachings, or maybe the Upanishads and so on. But ultimately, in our philosophy, we realize the highest and most essential things to speak about are the teachings of Krishna, his pastimes. We speak his names, we chant his names, we sing his names. So this is one of the ways we tolerate the urge to speak. The mind has so many demands. The mind always wants to engage the tongue, belly, genitals, all the senses, the eyes, the ears, and so many things. The most prominent thing that the mind always wants to do is in this material world is actually find the opposite gender, or the attractive, I should say attractive gender now, because in this age, yeah, everyone's attracted to everyone type of thing. So but this is the main thing that is actually generating the living entities in this world. That's how living entities are born, is that attraction is there, they come together, and next thing you know, the baby is there, and then that's how the world keeps going, moving on like this. So these are, all of these things are on the mind, and the mind is demanding that we engage in these things. Go here, go this one, let's see this person, let's see, let's do this thing, I want to watch this, I want to do this, I want to taste this, I want to feel this. But ultimately, yeah, as we know, these are all futile. We try our best, maybe we'll, let me get some wealth, let me get some sex, let me get some nice music, or let me get some nice this and that, but none of it actually can ultimately satisfy us anymore, because it's all temporary, it's all things of the temporary world. And when you get some transcendental knowledge, you realize, oh, I chase these things, I will not, I can't be satisfied like this. We've never been satisfied like this. There's always a hankering for more. None of you have been satisfied up until this point. Or you definitely wouldn't be here. If you've been fully satisfied, you would be like, all right, I'm good, I have my satisfactory thing at home. But actually, none of us actually can be satisfied in the material world, because even when you think you can get comfortable, the body is aging, it gets disease, and it dies, and then you're forced out of your comfort zone in the material world. There's just no stopping it. So, how do we control the mind's demands? I mean, Meghna just said it. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskadu. Mamevam. Yes. Mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijani priyosime. So always think of me, become my devotee, offer your worship and homage unto me. Thus you will surely come to me, because you are my very dear friend. So this is the essence of Bhagavad Gita, the most important verse actually. So we have to try and bring our mind to Krishna. Try and bring our mind to the Absolute. Maybe we don't even realize Krishna at first. I know, I'm practicing Krishna consciousness in so many ways, or I'm trying to. But, I don't have a very deep realization of Krishna. I don't know Krishna that well. I don't have really deep connections and visions with Krishna. My mind is also going everywhere. But we do our practices, our sadhana bhakti, to try and place the mind on Krishna. So this is how we can tolerate the mind's demands. And the actions of anger. So we talked about, actually, we read up until this point how to do some of these things, how to control the speaking power. Prabhupada was talking about atonement, how we can, why do we do all kinds of prayashchitta, in karma kanda, it's like I grew up Catholic. And in the Catholic Church, you would go into the confession box once a week, and you would tell the priest all of your sins, and it was like your atonement. He said, all right, we'll say 10 Hail Marys, and 10 this prayer, that prayer, and the other prayer, and then you're atoned, you're forgiven of your sins. And so you're like, all right, very good. And then you go, and you say all your prayers, and you go back and you sin again for the whole next week. And then you can all right, I'm going to cleanse myself of my sins. Let me go to the religious place and cleanse myself. But this is not actually a very good system. It's Prabhupada and Parikshit Maharaj in the Bhagavatam and Shukadev Goswami, they conclude that it's like an elephant taking a bath in the water, getting clean, and then as soon as he gets back on the shore, he throws dirt all over himself again. So this is what we do, and then we're left in a dirty condition. So this is not the point of spiritual life. The point of spiritual life is to actually cleanse ourselves and to remain cleansed. So oh, Tej, you did make it. Very good. Very happy to see you. So we talked about how to control the speaking power. and we mentioned Prabhupada mentioned the toad in the field. It's attracting death. When we speak of topics of death, death will eventually come to us, and we're bringing ourselves closer and closer. So we want to speak of eternal things, and the topmost eternal things we understand is Krishna, His names, His fame, His glory, His pastimes, and this is God. This is the main thing. So we should always be speaking Krishna Katha or hearing Krishna Katha. We also want to hear many things. Everyone is listening to podcasts or listening to movies and radio stations and this thing, that thing, and the other thing. But we should always check. Well, what is this person speaking of? Are they speaking of anything that is worth hearing? Are they speaking of anything that is for my eternal benefit? 99.9% of the time, it's going to be no. They're speaking of temporary things. Maybe it's CNN, maybe it's Fox News, maybe it's the sportscast, or the varieties of Netflix, or Hulu, or whatever you watch, or whatever you're doing. But this is not. This leads us ultimately to death, and it's a waste of time. We only have so much time in this human body, so we have to make sure what we speak and what we hear is of the utmost value and importance. And it's Krishna was compared to the sun. If we're feeling like we're in darkness, we don't know what to do, we're bewildered, all these things. Krishna actually illuminates everything, and wherever the sun is, there's no darkness. You notice right now it's dark. Why is it dark outside?
Because there's no light.
Well, who's providing the light?
Sun.
The sun. Yeah, thank you, Tej. Yes. The sun. So when the sun is here, there's no darkness. There's no question of darkness. You have to block yourself from the sun in order to experience darkness. So similarly, if we want to be in illusion, Maya, that means we have nothing to do with Krishna in these moments. When we're in illusion, when we're confused, when we're bewildered, when we don't know what to do, or it just means there's no Krishna in that moment. You're not tapping into Krishna. So tap into Krishna, and there's always ways we can do that. We have sadhanas, we chant the holy names, we sing in his kirtans, we hear Krishna's instructions, we hear Krishna's devotees' instructions, how we've seen how the devotees of Krishna have achieved success in the past, and then we can try and follow in those footsteps. So now the mind's demands are always there, but try to take wherever the mind is taking you, try and take it back to Krishna, try and take it back to that eternal thing. And that's ultimately the best thing Bhagavad Gita recommends is the personal relationship between you and the Supreme Lord. So this is Krishna consciousness. What's that? Is that Kashik? Yes. So the restlessness or fickleness of the mind, Manu Vega, is controlled when one can fix his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. So this is how we're going to control the mind's demands. Bring it back to Krishna. Involve whatever you're doing with Krishna. This is easy, actually. There's so many varieties of how to associate with Krishna. We have so many ways. And if you... Jai, Kashik, welcome back. So and then we talked about how anger can be controlled. How is anger controlled? We talked about this 2 weeks ago. No one remembers? You can't stop anger, actually. Anger naturally will come, but we have to shift our anger in a certain place. Yes.
You have to use your anger in Krishna's service.
Yes. So how does one do that?
For example, if a Vaishnava or Krishna himself is getting blasphemed by people, you use your anger
Yes.
towards them to completely eradicate whatever
Yeah, this should be how we use our anger. We shouldn't get angry over material things. We shouldn't get angry over petty or trivial things. Anger should be solely if somebody has blasphemed the Lord and if somebody has blasphemed a Vaishnava. but not you. You don't consider yourself the Vaishnava. If someone slights you, you tolerate. This is the way. If somebody, the devotee always feels like I deserve everything that comes to me, and that this is, it should be so much worse than this. But Krishna is actually showing me great mercy. So the devotee tolerates when themselves are, maybe insulted or something like this. But when another Vaishnava is insulted, we do not tolerate. And this is where we can use our anger properly. Arjuna used his anger in Bhagavad Gita. Hanuman used his anger in the Ramayana. This is proper use of anger, and they're glorified for this type of anger. But we should not become angry over so many nonsense things we are getting angry about. This politician made this policy, this thing, that thing. Unless that politician had made a big infraction on either the Lord or the Lord's devotees. Then I said, okay, then we could use our anger, no problem. So this is recommended, yes.
Can't that be tricky though? Because like Arjuna and Hanuman are on like totally different, kind of platforms than we're at currently. And someone could perceive that someone's being offensive or someone's mistreating, a devotee or something, but could just be their perception coming from ignorance.
Yes,
so
yes.
Are we at the platform to then engage our
Well,
anger?
that's a good point. It should be under guidance. So, for instance, Arjuna, he didn't even want to use his anger in Bhagavad Gita. Do you remember? He didn't want to fight. He was feeling, even though his devotee brothers were all insulted, his devotee wife was very deeply insulted. Everyone was insulted, but he still wanted to forgive them. But it was due to Krishna telling him, no, this is unacceptable. You have to use your anger for you must fight. You must fight them. This cannot go on any longer. Same with Hanuman. Sita was kidnapped, and under guidance Hanuman went, and under the request of Ram, Hanuman went and used his anger in that way.
You were touching your feet with it, Kaushik. It's not so good. That's why he took it.
Yes, Kaushik, we never want to put any sacred book near our feet. So we never want to touch our feet to any type of book.
And do everybody take it home?
Somebody could, yeah, you could. People can take it home, no problem.
It's more because it's a holy book.
Yeah, you never want to put it on near your feet. So it's just a small etiquette thing.
If you want another one, there's more. We can grab you one.
Yes. So.
Would you like one?
Yes.
I can't
Okay.
grab it because it's
So give Kaushik a book and then no problem.
he knows. Yeah.
So Hanuman and Arjuna were examples here. Now as for the, this is how we should use our anger. So if somebody does something towards you, just accept. Our most important verse in the whole Vaishnava canon is what? What is Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what has all of our acharyas said is the most important verse we should string around our neck and live by? What's that mean?
Should be more humble than a straw, like a straw grass.
Straw on the street. So, but the straw on the street, what does it do if anyone comes and tramples over it or walks on it?
It's fine. It's still.
Yeah, tolerant.
Tolerates it.
Yes, it does not protest. And more tolerant than a tree. What does a tree do when somebody wants to climb on it, or carve their name into it, or chop it down? Does the tree protest? No. So this is how we should, when towards ourselves, we should be very humble, devoid of any sense of false prestige. Never thinking yourself, oh, I'm so great. This is my look at my position. I can do this. I have these talents. I'm like this. I'm like that. This is false prestige. We should be free of this, and ready to offer all respect unto others, especially based on their level. We should understand what's called adhikar. You heard of adhikar before? Adhikar means is devotional merit and advancement. And so for our, we as we try to advance in becoming devotees, we have to look at the Lord always with the greatest respect. We always have to look at the Lord with the greatest respect, and we should have friendship with the devotees. This should be who we have friendship with, the devotees of the Lord. And in that friendship with the devotees, there's different ways. So we might understand, like, okay, Tanmay now is an established devotee practitioner now, 1.5, 2 years, something like this. And we understand Tanmay is a certain level of advancement is made, and we respect Tanmay, his advancement. Similarly, maybe Sita is just walking in off the street, so we have to give her a little bit more, a little bit more mercy, and oh, she's new, we have to tolerate a few more extra things from her. She doesn't exactly know so many things as of yet, so that we'll teach her some things, but we will be patient and tolerant and merciful towards her. And then, and then someone like Kashik might have been practicing for many, many lifetimes, and someone may be of a topmost platform, and we should be very humble before that person and wish to hear from that person, serve that person, and so on. So this is how there's proper friendship, and this is the proper respect we give based on the adhikar. We respect everybody, even all the living entities. And the other way you respect the living entities is that for those who are innocent, who are not inimical to the Lord, we try and give them mercy. So that's why you might notice we love to share prasadam here with people. Why? Because we know if people eat prasadam, that they get a positive impression of Krishna, and that in that, when they take in the prasadam and they digest the prasadam, their consciousness and their body and their mind will be filled with Krishna consciousness to a certain degree. Or that's why we go out and we chant the holy names in the street. So people are hearing. And this is mercy. And the innocent will be benefited, And actually so will the inimical as well. Inimical is those who are envious or have many critical things to say towards the devotees and yourself. And actually best, especially for the practicing devotee, just avoid the inimical. If somebody is inimical to God or Krishna, this is the most merciful thing you can do for them. If somebody becomes inimical, just avoid them, no problem. Why? Because they are, the more offenses they make towards the devotees, the more, the digger the hole they're burying themselves in. So we don't want to actually give them more opportunity to make offenses. So better just avoid that person. So this is actually how you can be compassionate, even on the inimical. You just get away from them for some time. Yes.
So if you're angry, it's better to avoid them?
Stay away, yeah.
Well, it depends.
I'm going off my question before. I feel like you didn't really answer it.
So, okay, it depends on the circumstance. If this person, if they're, let's say Michael is being mistreated by somebody who's obviously inimical to a devotee, you stop that. You never would tolerate it. You should be like, good.
But there's so many intricacies to that. It's like one thing if someone goes up to say Michael, and they're like, yeah, it's very clear, like, okay, they're, not treating this person right. But there's so many subtle ways to interact with people.
I'll give you an example. I had the other day. We were at the station. At the station. We were at the university, and this Christian man who was nice to us at one point, but I got there, and I saw, he was with the sign, and I saw Michael was distributing books, and this man was saying, any other religion will send you to hell and all these things. And I made sure I was not tolerant with him at all. I said, you're not going to get anywhere like this, and I was like angry with him. And he starts going on, and then I just I bickered with him back and forth, but basically I made him go away, because I was just like, he was telling me, you're all going to hell, blah, blah, blah. I was like, you're going to see, very confidently.
Well, that's another extreme example. It's like a devotee that's like going back and forth, and one's, like we've seen this. we've had.
Yeah, I mean, you would counsel the devotees to be like, all right, like, come on, you be devotees, everyone be tolerant, be humble, you don't have to, but, in an extreme example, you don't tolerate these things. But if something, but like for instance, let's say Meghna and Lalita got in like some little argument, we would say like, you two, please, just apologize to each other. It's your devotees, respect each other, no problem. So like that, but it doesn't, it depends on the severity.
Well, I'm asking because you're saying that we should use our anger in Krishna's service. So
Yes, but anger is for someone who is blaspheming devotees or blaspheming the Lord. If somebody has made a slight offense, you can slightly in anger, like I'm always chastising. As Tanmay, Piyush, and Michael, I'm always, there's always a little bit of anger, but depends on the severity of what is being done. If there's, or sometimes I have to be chastised. You're always chastising me. So, it depends on the severity of what is done, A big offense means big anger, You stole the Lord's wife, we'll burn your city down. But, or you tried to strip the chaste woman Draupadi in the assembly, your whole dynasty should be killed, but but at the same time, you made a transgression against the devotees, then you tell that person, like Tanmay didn't cook for the devotees the other day when I had asked him to, and I was like, Tanmay, I only just wanted dal. I was like, all right, well, what about Palash? What about Michael? What about everyone else? And so I had to give him like a little bit of chastise, and the next thing you know, yeah. So so then like this. So anyway, it depends on the offense. You can't, but it should be done under guidance too. I mean, and we should also understand that person's position. This is part of offering respect. If they're our superior, we should come and humbly ask, well, why would you can ask, why would we do like this, if that's the case. But if they're our friend, we would say like, we'd banter back and forth. No, we shouldn't do like this. If they're our peer, if they're our equal, like our spiritual equal, or if they're younger than us, then you might chastise them, or not younger, but like spiritually less, had made less progress, maybe, or just beginning their spiritual life, then you might chastise, what are you doing? What is this? How can you think that's the right thing to do? And that helps them. That helps them. So, but it's not, you don't be like cruel and ruthless. And, the Lord is always so merciful. He said he would take Ravan back. Ram said, if anyone who comes and will surrender unto me, I'll surely protect them. So even there's nothing that's irredeemable, but at the same time we cannot tolerate certain things. No blasphemy of the Lord and no blasphemy of the devotees. Even if the blasphemy is small, like, oh, well, the devotees didn't get to eat very nicely today. So then you just give a little bit of chastisement just to correct the issue. But not. But it depends. We have to understand our position. In the beginning, it's better. We're probably understand that we're at a low position and that we shouldn't be chastising very many. But over time, you'll gain some maturity, and then new people will also come into the experience, and you could help those people. But you don't have to. It's an art, and I don't know. I've seen that also. The Krishna, if I'm chastising too much, Krishna will punish me and correct me, or send me a senior to correct me. So like this is also, this happens. But ultimately, you should be ready to tolerate all insults to oneself. But when Krishna or his pure devotee is blasphemed, the genuine devotee becomes angry and acts like fire against the offenders. Like the example is Jaghai and Madhai. When Nityananda Prabhu was beaten with the clay pot and made to bleed, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was ready to kill them. But ultimately, what ended up happening? Nityananda Prabhu, he begged for their deliverance, and he begged for the Lord to have mercy on them. And because this is the nature of the devotee. I actually have seen this. I don't need to mention names, but I've seen devotees who have treated me, or I've seen people who have treated me disrespectfully, then later on come and want to, benefit from the Krishna consciousness. So over time, we should be very patient and want to have mercy.
Benefit from what?
What? They want to benefit from the spiritual thing that they were blaspheming in the first place. I saw this with myself. For many years I was blaspheming God and blaspheming the devotees. And when I had my most pivotal experience that led me on my spiritual path, the main thing that was highlighted was how I had mistreated sincere religious practitioners and how I was so arrogantly saying that God does not exist. So, anyhow, I had to correct my behavior, and then I ended up becoming the very thing that I was blaspheming in the first place. So anyway, this is the Lord has a funny way of doing everything. But let's actually get into, this is all review of what we read last time. Let's actually get into a little bit of, now the urges of the tongue. We talked about, we'll just read from Srila Prabhupada. As for the urges of the tongue, it should be maybe 1 or 2 pages down. It's after we talked, maybe like 5 or 6 paragraphs down. So as for the urges of the tongue, we all experience that the tongue wants to eat palatable dishes. Palatable means like tasty dishes, right? Do you guys?
We don't know where you are.
I said like 5 or 6 paragraphs down. As for the urges of the tongue.
Grade 6, section 5.
Yes. So, generally we should not allow the tongue to eat according to its choice, but we should control the tongue by supplying prasad. The devotee's attitude is that he will eat only when Krishna gives him prasad. A lot of times we want to customize and make our own prasad, in such a way. But actually the art is like whatever Krishna is giving, we should take that prasad. Whatever facility is there. And I've seen this in my life. Actually, Krishna over the past month or two, he had customized some material miseries in my life in such a way that the very thing that I like the most, which is the sweet taste, via fruits and so many things, Krishna forced me to take it away because it was causing me a medical issue actually, and feeding candida. So now, I'm, just taking like simple, non-sweet prasad. Trying to be simple. I'm working on this simplification. But this is how we can control the tongue, to accept what is given, not to be searching out what is palatable. Ooh, this will taste good. Ooh, this will taste good. No, this is the thing we're trying to. We want to please Krishna when we offer, but ultimately the best way to please Krishna. How does Krishna eat? Does anyone know? There's a scriptural injunction how the Krishna is eating. Yes, actually, it's in the scripture. It says through the mouth of the brahmanas. This is the way that Krishna likes to eat the most. So we should feed the saintly people. So actually, that's why when we make the prime time where we should make really sumptuous, wonderful prasadam is when devotees from around are coming. When we have our programs, this is the time to make nice prasadam. But for ourselves, we should just offer something humble. There's a nice story at the Madan Mohan temple in Vrindavan. Sanatan Goswami, he was the presiding acharya. He founded the temple, and he became very renounced, very, very renounced. And so Sanatan Goswami was offering. He had Madan Mohan deities, and he had a very intimate relationship with the deity, where the deity would actually visit him in the dreams and speak with him, and he had a very deep connection with Sri Krishna. So one day he was he became so renounced and he became so poor that all he had to offer was some flour that he begged. And he would mix the flour with some water, and then he would just fry it on a little pan, and he would make like a fat roti type thing. What's that?
It's like a ball.
It's a ball. It's kind of like a disc, like a fat disc. So anyway, yeah, and they serve it. If you go to this modern Mohan temple, if you go to the Babaji there who presides over the temple, that's what they serve as the prasadam, because this is the pastime. So it's just plain bread, no taste at all. So Krishna actually visited him.
I was thinking FLOW.
No, not flowers. No, flour like atta, like wheat. So this is all that he could procure. This is all that he could get.
Okay.
So what did he do? And he would offer this to Krishna. So then Krishna, he visited him in the dream and he said, my dear Sanatan, this is all you can offer me? Can I at least have some salt with the bread? And Sanatan Goswami, he chastised Krishna. He says, well, today you'll want salt, then tomorrow you'll want ghee, and then the next day you'll want this, you'll want that, and this, and then by the end of it, it'll take me so much time to prepare all these things, I'll have no time for your bhajan. So if you want me to think of you with love and affection, then you please just accept this for right now. And this is a very wonderful pastime. But actually this teaches us how to control the tongue. We should, especially when just nourishing one's own self, we should try to eat very simply. We should try. But for the devotees, for Krishna and his devotees, you come here, we're like, well, you guys are serving out. That's not simple at all. No, because why? Because we know Krishna is eating through the devotees. We know Krishna is eating through the people we want to give mercy. Many people, it's not the tendency. The tendency is that the tongue wants to enjoy palatable dishes, the belly wants to be full, and the living entity wants to enjoy the pleasure of the genitals. So when we're dealing with the outside and trying to bring people closer towards a more controlled life, we must give them these opulent, tasty dishes. But for ourselves, we should try and work towards control. We should try and work towards it. It's not easy. I'll tell you, the tongue is where Prabhupada is we say a prayer every day. Thank you. You gotta clear the throat.
I had to get some water.
Yes. Maybe someone can get you some water. Tanmay will get. Kachik, sit down. Tanmay will get you some water.
Prabhupada also had all these Sunday witnesses and habits. A lot of these people are coming from doing drugs and drinking alcohol and having just unlimited sex life and also meat eating, which also we're kind of coming from.
Sure.
This, so it's important in the beginning to actually have that really tasty prasadam. Otherwise, your mind is just so disturbed by all those things. But then, over the years, you start to control, just naturally, it just happens.
Yeah, well, it's said that as you make advancement in Krishna consciousness, just like when you eat, naturally your strength is regained, and then you are you're satisfied and you're full, and you don't want to eat. You lose your appetite. So when you actually gain Krishna consciousness, your worldly attachment, your detachment will arise, just as you get knowledge as well. You get more and more knowledge, and then you'll realize, like for instance, we see how the Goswamis here, Rupa Goswami is writing this, how renounced they became, where they were only eating a few chickpeas a day, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so adamant, especially with his most sincere and strict devotees, that they like if you look at Raghunath Das Goswami, how renounced he became, and how he began rejecting anything that even prasadam, even Jagannath Mahaprasadam, that could be construed towards any way he could abuse it towards sense gratification. So,
Is he the one that took the rice out of the...
Yeah, he at one point all he was doing was taking the rice that the people would throw out, and then he would take the rice and he would wash it in the river, and then they would throw it in the cow shed for the cows, and he would eat only the discarded remnants of rice of the Vaishnavas. That's all he would eat. Not saying we should imitate like this, but we should know, and Prabhupada has said this to devotees. I've heard this multiple times, because Prabhupada has said that, the natural needs of the human condition is eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But as we make spiritual advancement, these things will gradually reduce to zero. because we know we'll no longer have material needs. And we see this with the Goswamis. They would sleep for max an hour and a half a night. They would survive. They'd eat only a few chickpeas every other day or something like this. Completely just on a different level. But it's not artificial. It's not like, all right, well, I'm only going to eat a few chickpeas every 3 days. No, because they were so filled with bhajan, they were so filled in the joy of their spiritual practices that they would forget to eat. They wouldn't consider sleeping. They were so filled with Krishna consciousness that these things would just naturally fall away. So this is actually, this...
Adding on to your sentence, I think even Krishna likes it when we add tulsi to the food.
Yes. He loves, yes, this is a very, very much, this is how you offer properly, actually. I think even Sanatana Goswami, when he would give just the flourless bread, he would, I think, offer with tulsi as well. So there's no, this is a necessary part of worship. Krishna loves this. But at the same time, as we make advancement, we'll want to simplify the palatable dishes, the urges of the tongue. We'll control these things. But in the beginning, especially, and it's so important, but we would not ask, Lalita, it's your third time to the temple. What are you doing? Why are you eating the tasty prasad? Here, I'll have some chickpea, and don't eat till tomorrow. No, we wouldn't do like that. But over time, we may, as you became more and more established, you would naturally make the decision. You'd see the benefit of, going less, with the urges of the tongue and the belly, to fill the belly. This is a very... So anyway, the tongue is... we're going to see, Prabhupada will get into it. But let's keep reading a little bit so we can try and get through this. In a similar manner, the urges of the genitals, the sex impulse, can be controlled when not used unnecessarily. The genitals should be used to beget a Krishna-conscious child. Otherwise, they should not be used. The Krishna consciousness movement encourages marriage not for the satisfaction of the genitals, but for the begetting of Krishna-conscious children. As soon as the children are a little grown up, they are sent to our Gurukul school, which they are trained to become fully Krishna-conscious devotees. Many such Krishna-conscious children are required, and one who is capable of bringing forth Krishna-conscious offspring is allowed to utilize his genitals. So, this is ultimately how one should use the genitals, is have devotee children. The urges of the genitals, like we mentioned, this is so strong. This is actually the prime focus of every material person in the world. And it's likely even the prime focus of us in the beginning as well. But we must control these things. And if we are having a difficult time controlling these things, best to get married. And then in marriage, you'll see, I have, practical experience. My wife is, she will have, will enter the next phase of life. But when you enter the next phase of life, you actually can't, you can't do those things anymore, the pregnancy and all these things. So you have to enter a different phase of life. And so on, like this. So marriage is the natural way to control these things. So if you don't feel like, also if you can just avoid it, there's many phases now in my life where just like, you forget about that urge. Just like, oh, okay, my life, this is how my life is now. But, this is a very dangerous one. And this, and it's seen, Prabhupada has mentioned that it's in a straight line. If the tongue is controlled and the belly is controlled, then the genitals will not be so, have so much pressure on them. Like actually, if you satisfy all kinds of palatable dishes in the tongue and the belly is always full, then there's so much pressure will be on the genitals. And then it'll almost always have to come out. And it cannot be controlled. So this is the way to control the sex impulse. It's ultimately marriage is the way. For women, it's almost always recommended unless they take to a very, very deep practice, a very surrendered practice, and usually under the guidance of spiritual teacher, that they wouldn't do this. But marriage is recommended, and for men, for 99% of men, or for a large majority of men, it's also recommended that they marry as well. Marriage is very safe. Not a lot of people know this, but at the end, and this little conspiracy, but this was kind of covered up a little bit, but at the end of Prabhupada's tenure, so many sannyasis that he had encouraged to take the renounced order of life, they couldn't maintain their vows and their standards. And
They were all like 20, 30.
yeah, and they were so young. So he actually said, like, we'll make no more sannyasis, and everyone should be grahastha, get married and practice this way. Now the sannyasis in charge who are leading things didn't circulate that. How if an acharya speaks, it should have been circulated, but that's the truth. That evidence is there that Prabhupada has spoken like this. So actually, realistically, most people should get married. Most people should get married. But if one is very, very highly qualified, and you could forego marriage, it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam, the type of transcendental personalities that don't need to learn the valuable lessons of marriage. But most people have to learn these valuable lessons. I'm learning them every day. My lovely wife is here. She's such a wonderful teacher, and life is such a wonderful teacher, and I'm learning so many lessons. Yes. This is what the Bhagavatam warns of. This is why I cannot place all my happiness, and she's learning it about me as well. I can't rely on him for happiness in this, that, and the other either. So we'll learn this thing. We'll learn this very viscerally in marriage. Tej can probably tell you even much better than I can tell you. He's been doing many years. But this is actually, most people should get married, but marriage will teach you the value of renunciation. And you'll have a very practical, visceral experience of why renunciation is very important. So, we'll keep reading though. When one is fully practiced in the methods of Krishna conscious control, he can become qualified to be a bona fide spiritual master. This is very important because it's necessary to find spiritual guidance. It's necessary to find a spiritual master. Yes, you might have some shiksha guru. In one sense, I can act for many and most of you. I can act as a form of like Bhartma Pradarshika guru introducing you, and even shiksha giving you some instructions based on what my gurus have given to me. But ultimately, if you read Nectar of Devotion, and you'll even read further in this literature, it's imperative that one actually surrenders unto a spiritual teacher. We read the perfection of surrendering one's life unto the spiritual master every morning when we sing a bhajan. This is an essential actually part. And maybe in this lifetime, if you don't want to do in this lifetime, no, but you will have to. Even Jesus, he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. Now the Christians, they interpret that is like saying, well, unless you now go through Jesus 2,000 years later, and there's no other way. But actually, he was speaking that to his disciples. And if you look at the history of Israel, there was no other qualified spiritual master in that area. I said, but he was telling them, I'm the way. You have to come through me. If you want to go to the highest destination, you have to come through me. Same thing is applying, if you want to go to the highest destination, we have to go through a bona fide spiritual master. But you may say, well, where is the qualified spiritual master in my life? Anyone have that question? Well, how do I find him? How do I?
It comes with time, like when you're ready, the master will already
Yes,
will come in.
that's exactly what it is. There's a Western axiom: when the student is ready, the master will appear, the teacher will appear. So actually, we should always understand, if we don't have proper spiritual guidance in our life, are we being sincere enough in searching for that guidance? Do we really want that guidance? Could we even handle the guidance? Or
What if we don't find at all?
Well, that's the thing. You would have faith that Krishna, if you're sincere enough, you'll know that Krishna will, there is no what if. Krishna, that's how he gives his mercy. So if you pray sincerely for Krishna's mercy, this is how it'll come. But it often comes through shiksha instructors, people who can give you some practical advancement, mentors and things, and they can help you get to the next level and find that person. So yes.
Prabhupada was saying today, I was listening, he was talking about finding a guru, and he was saying that if you're looking but you're not really being sincere, you'll attract a guru that's also insincere, because that's actually what's in your heart.
Yeah.
So there's also the chance
The
of
cheaters and the cheated, Cheaters want to be cheated, So if you're not sincere, you will be cheated. This verse is actually telling you what the spiritual master looks like. He's fully mastered in Krishna conscious control. He can tolerate the urge to speak. He speaks about Krishna. The mind's demands. The mind is on Krishna and Krishna consciousness. The actions of anger and the urges of the tongue. His anger is in relation to the devotees in Krishna not being served properly. The urges of the tongue are being controlled, towards Krishna Prasad, and maybe even more simplifying as well. And the belly and the genitals are also being controlled only in the service of Krishna. And that person is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So we should look for that type of person. This is giving you a hint of what that person looks like. There's a lot of people, in Kali Yuga, go across India, how many gurus or incarnations or this, that, and the other. But if you actually just use this one verse, you can weed out 95% of them. Well, that's not a guru. I gotta look elsewhere. So this is the process. But we must do this. We must find a spiritual master. And if, not now, it'll have to happen. That's the way it happens. That's how Krishna disseminates his mercy. Yes, we could approach God, but if we can't respect God's devotee, then God will not be so interested. And I'm like, just like the way that Krishna likes to eat is best through the devotee, the way that Krishna likes to receive service is best through the devotee. And what more intimate than the devotee who is fully invested and surrendered unto him. So that should be where the service goes. So anyhow, these are some things. In his Anuvritti explanation of Upadeshamrita, is which what we're reading, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who's Prabhupada's guru, writes that our material identification creates three kinds of urges: the urge to speak, the urge or demands of the mind, and the demands of the body. When a living entity falls victim to these three types of urges, his life becomes inauspicious or unblessed. One who practices resisting these demands or urges is called tapasvi, or one who practices austerities. So by such tapasya, one can overcome victimization by the material energy, the external potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the mind and the body are going to have its demands, but we must practice some tapasya, become a tapasvi. Now that's not the only thing that we should. It's not like, all right, well, I'm not going to worry about my Krishna consciousness. Now I'm just all about controlling my mind and my senses. No, naturally, by practicing Krishna consciousness, this tapasya or tapasvi will come. So, I thought you were raising your hand. You're just holding the book. So this is important. When we refer to the urge to speak, we refer to useless talking, such as that of the impersonal Mayavadi philosophers, or a person engaged in fruitive activities, technically called karmakanda, or of materialistic people who simply want to enjoy life without restriction. All such talks or literatures are practical exhibitions of the urge to speak. Many people are talking nonsensically and writing volumes of useless books, and all this is the result of the urge to speak. To counteract this tendency, we have to divert our talking to the subject of Krishna. This is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam in chapter 5 of the first canto, 10 and 11. Na yad vachaschitra padam harer yasho jagat pavitram pragranita kardhichit tadvyaya samtirtham ushanti manasa nayatra hamsa niramantyushikshayaha. Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all-perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. You'll see this. I was talking to one of our young girls some time ago, and she was very upset that one of the persons she was living with would always want to speak harshly or criticize others or do things like this. And she was very unattracted to this, which is actually good. It's a symptom of it's good that, like, oh, you don't want to hear such negative speaks or gossips and criticizing others and things like this. But any worldly talks we don't want to hear. Like for instance, I love my mother, but my mother likes to talk about politics a lot. Always what Trump did or what this one did and what that one did. And just every chance I get, let's just see if I can change the subject. How can I change the subject? How can I change the subject? And you'll see this. You'll talk to many people because you want to be merciful unto the people of this world. It's not that you want to just let them all glide towards this inauspicious life, which will lead them to misery. We know this. We practically experience this. We see this in their lives. But, we have to help them, So when they want to talk of worldly things, we just try and change the subject matter. How can we get this back towards something benefit? How can we bring this towards Krishna? So we see this, all the relationships in our life. You work on this. And then the relationships where you can't really do that well, you just find those relationships are less and less satisfying. And you'll, like a lot of our, family dealings and our friend dealings, it's becoming more and more scarce over the years. We'll see them, maybe I'll see you next year, something like that, And but that's, that takes time and it's, and it's natural because you'll want to talk about Krishna, but they're like, oh, why does he want to keep talking about this stuff? So they'll naturally distance themselves from you too. It's not like they'll be like begging, come on, where are you? The only one that's a little hard is more like family relationships, or if you're in a partnership or something and say you enter Krishna consciousness, and these types of relationships are a little bit more difficult. But you just keep working at it. But the next verse after that, we don't want to be in this pilgrimage for crows. You ever get to, when you see a bunch of crows, this is like a bad omen. You should notice this in your life. You see a bunch of crows, and you just listen. It's inauspicious. It's like, ah, ah, ah. You're like, oh, I hate that. But actually, Narada Muni says places where they just talk of worldly things. So like when you just go to the university, and when they pass by, all you hear are people talking about just worldly things. And you just sit there and try to, hey, like yoga, meditation, anything. But they're not interested. Why? Because this is just places of crows. And yet we want to just, but do we want to keep gathering with crows, or do we want to gather with swans? So it's recommended to gather where the glories of the Lord are being spoken of. So that's why we have Krishna Katha. This is the Katha. This is the way to control the urge of speaking. We want to go to places where that's being spoken. This is about the only spot I know where this is regularly being spoken, in Syracuse at least. So this is the place that people should really gather, actually. Not that we're doing anything other than we're just creating a facility where Krishna Katha is the main emphasis. And if you see me not talking about Krishna Katha and worrying about worldly things, you humbly ask me, well, why are we speaking of this thing? Can't we talk of Krishna Katha? And if I'm in any good sense of it, yes, this is the conclusion. We should definitely be speaking only of these things. So anyway, why? Now the next verse is Tadvag Visargo Janataga Viplavo Yasmin Pratishlokam Abadavatyapi Namanyanantasya Yashon Kitaniyat Shrinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Saravaha. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc. of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. This is one of my favorite translations of Srila Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. So, these literatures which talk about the glories of the name, the fame, the forms, the pastimes of the Lord, these are what we should be this is what we should be hearing about. This is what we should be discussing. This is what should be talked about in our sphere. Such transcendental literatures, even though they're imperfectly composed, like we're reading, I'm reading from the original Srila Prabhupada's books, and guess what? There's some mistakes and things like that are present there. But no problem. These are heard and sung and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. This is what one should hear, rather than some perfect scholarly composition of worldly things. These are the things that we should hear about. And to hear anything else, it's mentioned also soon after in the Bhagavatam, in the same section, is a complete useless waste of time. Waste of time, and it'll all be finished at death. Like in your past lives, you don't remember any of the worldly things you spoke about. You don't remember any of your worldly relationships. Your wife, your husband, you don't even remember who you were. You don't remember whether you were a boy, a girl, this, that, and the other thing. You don't know, a pig, a boy pig, a girl pig. We don't remember. We don't know. But guess what? The only means of what drives us into the next life is how much spiritual advancement we make. The reason you pick this up in this life is because this isn't your first rodeo with this. You've done this before. Now you're just continuing where you left off. That's all it is. That's all this is. You have to keep continuing. You have to keep going. But all the worldly things will just waste that very valuable progress. This is the essence of life. This is the purpose. So, the conclusion is that only when we talk about devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead can we refrain from useless, nonsensical talk. This isn't an artificial process. All right, I'm not going to talk like the Mayavadi meditators. They'll be like, don't speak of anything, don't do anything, don't think of anything, don't think of anything. This is you're repressing the natural inclination of the living entity. But you have to learn how to fill these things with something very positive, and the ultimate positive thing is the Supreme Lord. We all have a God-shaped hole in our heart. So we must fill the heart, the mind, everything with the Lord. If that's not being filled, it can't be controlled. We should always endeavor to use our speaking power solely for the purpose of realizing Krishna consciousness. No other reason to speak. As for the agitations of the bickering mind, they are divided into two divisions. The first is called aviroda priti, or unrestricted attachment, and the other is called viroda yukta krodha, anger arising from frustration. Adherence to the philosophy of the Mayavadis, belief in the fruitive results of the Karmavadis, and belief in plans based on materialistic desires are called aviroda priti. So I see this in my own life right now. We're talking about buying this house. We're talking about future plans, all kinds of different things, and my mind can wander. But a lot of times, if you really diagnose what is the mind focusing on, you see that, like, all right, it cares about a fruitive result here. It cares about things. If Krishna wants to leave me high and dry and crumble everything in my life around me, if he gives me himself, no problem. That should be the proper utilization of my Krishna conscious realization. But instead, I'm wanting to cling. I'm trying to structure and do everything so that it all comes together. But ultimately, it's up to Krishna, and if he provides the resources that we need for our whatever plans we have, it's good. If he opens the door, we can walk through it. But if he doesn't want to open that door, we should understand, all right, Krishna has some other plan for me. So anyway, these are certain agitations of the mind. So jnanis, karmis, and materialistic plan makers generally attract the attention of conditioned souls. But when the materialists cannot fulfill their plans and when their devices are frustrated, they become angry. Frustration of material desires produces anger. This is why we're angry in this world. Sometimes we notice, sometimes, I notice that maybe some of the boys are having a rough day or something like that. And this is why we're angry. This is why we're having a rough day, because our material desires are frustrated. But actually, the proper use of our anger should be like when the devotees' desires are being frustrated, when the Lord's desires are being frustrated. This is the proper way. This is what should rouse our anger, not like, oh, my material plan didn't work. Your material plan will never work. It'll never work. It never has and it never will. Get used to it. But it's good if you actually diagnose how it all works out. You could be I'm so glad. I wanted to marry Miley Cyrus when I was a young, lusty boy when I was younger. I look at her now, I'm like, holy crap, what a bullet I dodged. Who knows what happened.
Because that was a realistic desire.
It wasn't a realistic desire, but I had this stupid greed for this type of thing. But thank God that was frustrated, I mean, I look at her now, I'm like, oh man, she's quite satanic. I would have been implicated in some really nasty stuff, but at the same time, I had all these plans were there. And it's good. It's good. Your plans aren't working. It's good. Trust the process here. Similarly, the demands of the body can be divided into three categories: the demands of the tongue, the belly, and the genitals. One may observe that these three senses are physically situated in a straight line, as far as the body is concerned, and that the bodily demands begin with the tongue. If one can restrain the demands of the tongue by limiting its activities to the eating of prasad, the urges of the belly and the genitals can automatically be controlled. In this connection, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, we sing this is the Mahaprasadam prayers. Sharira vijajal jadandriya tahekal jive pele vishaya shagarde Dharma jayavayati lobhamoy sadormati takajeta kathina samsade Krishna bharadoyamoy koribari jivajay Swaprasada nadila bai sanamrita kaurada Krishna gunagau premedaka chaitanya nitai. Oh Lord, this material body is a lump of ignorance, or a network of ignorance, depending. And the senses are a network of paths leading to death. Somehow or other, we have fallen into the ocean of material sense enjoyment. And of all the senses, the tongue is the most voracious. Voracious is like, I think it means like strong and like insurmountable. But let's see. Voracious means wanting or devouring great quantities of food. It's the most voracious and uncontrollable. It is very difficult to conquer the tongue in this world. But you, dear Krishna, are very kind to us. You have sent this nice prasad to help us conquer the tongue. Therefore, let us take this prasad to our full satisfaction and glorify your lordship, Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. And in love, call for the help of Lord Chaitanya and Prabhu Nityananda. So this is the process. We eat prasadam only. So step 1, eat only prasadam. And then over time, you might find calling for the help of Chaitanya and Nityananda. And when you study Chaitanya and Nityananda, you'll see the process of how to further control this thing. This tongue is very difficult to control. It just wants to taste and taste and taste. And then when it does, then the belly gets full and full and full. And then the genitals get stronger and stronger, and the urge to act with them will get stronger and stronger. And then, especially if you're a man, once you lose the valuable essence that the genitals are holding, then you become depleted, and your energy is lost, and your life becomes inauspicious, actually. From personal example, I can tell you this is the truth. This can be seen. There's all kinds of science. There's something, material science people are now talking about called semen retention. Or, on Reddit, they like this no-fat movement, or like no masturbating and things like this. Are you raising your hand?
No, I'm playing my hair, sorry.
Oh, okay. So So this, for men, this is extremely beneficial. Like even boxers, professional fighters, they know this before a fight. They, for at least usually a month to 2 weeks, they won't release any of that. Why? Because their strength will naturally increase, their mind will be sharper, everything is so much sharper. So this is a very actually important part. And so what happens, you see, is when you overeat, there's so much pressure is there, it's almost insurmountable. If you can't control the tongue, it's impossible to control. And even if you force yourself not to control it in the dreams, it will come out anyway. You know, so men know about this phenomena. So anyways, this is very, very important to try and control. And prasadam is the way to control. And then also, you know, we should understand, you know, like, you know, and Prabhupada mentioned earlier, to eat at scheduled times, not be whimsical. You know, and you know what you need to control yourself. I mean, for me personally, I have what's considered an odd eating schedule. But I know that if I don't eat this way, that I will lose the control that I'm seeking in my life. So I have to eat this way. And people have even mentioned to me, like devotees, that I have like an inconceivable diet. Krishna Kripa Prabhu says, oh, I forgot you have this inconceivable diet. But I need to, or else I cannot do my service properly. So you'll be able to know what you need. But it should only be prasad. Everything we eat should be prasad. This is the way to control the tongue. So maybe we get a little lazy sometimes and we don't want to go through an offering, or we just want to snack on any outside things. This is not going to help us. This will not help us at all. Or we're out with friends and they're eating things. Oh, I'll eat some of that too, no problem. There's no control of the tongue this way. If we want to actually control the tongue, we should eat only prasad. There should be some offering in some way. When eating outside, you know, because I know a lot of you are students and you don't have a place where you can even make prasadam so effectively. We are sympathetic. You can come here. We have programs every day. You can get some prasad every day. With so many leftovers too. But the other thing is fruits and milk products can always be offered, and these are very pure. So if you take fruits and milk products, even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he took these offerings, even from materialistic people. So this is, yes.
I was just thinking about this today because a lot of the time you read this stuff and it seems like there's so many restrictions and there's so many rules and things to follow, but I was thinking even, you know, like, I don't know what they're saying, who came up with like Google and Facebook and like all of these like really rich entrepreneurs you hear about, they had a sadhana actually, like they had like a sadhana where they would live in a small place, very like a one room, they would have 2 shirts that they would wear, they would eat ramen noodles, they would spend, so that all their energy was on their goal. So they were also taking on austerities but for a different goal, but I think it's important to know that like all these things are here in place for us to reach our goal, so that we can concentrate, you know, on how to get, you know, love for Krishna and love for God. Otherwise, if you get lost in all like the rules and regulations and all this stuff, then it can seem overwhelming, but it's just kind of part of the sadhana to get you there.
Yeah, and it's compared to like when you're sick. Like for instance, I had this candida overgrowth in my tongue, and when it was very bad, and my tongue was in so much pain, it was swelling. You all heard it when I was trying to speak. I'm like drooling. It was like a horrible experience. But I knew my sadhana was, in order to get better, is I had to restrict the thing that was causing it. And for me, it was sweet things, even fruits, even, you know, like fruits were causing the issue. And even sweet potatoes and butternut squash, you know, these type of things, you know, were also contributing. And grains. So I had to really take a medicinal diet. I'm actually still on the diet. But actually, even though it's not what my mind wants at all, my mind wants to enjoy sweets. It likes sweets. I've always liked sweets. You know, when I was a little kid, you know, all I wanted to eat were like Skittles and all these like little, you know, candies like this. But actually, that's probably why I've probably had this, all kinds of overgrowth of living entities in my belly that are causing my cravings like this. But anyhow, we have to take medicine to get better. So right now we have no attraction for the Lord. So we might have to go through a program that's a little rough, when we are, we're in the process of trying to achieve the highest goal. Relationship with God is amazing. You can't even fathom how amazing relationship with God is. If you could think of the most amazing person you'd want to meet in this material world. I don't know whether it's the top athlete or the top political leader or the top musician or this person, that top scientist, philosopher, whatever. If you're associating with God, it's infinitely more amazing, the Supreme Person. But in order to do that, we have to cleanse ourselves, to go before Him. Even to meet a great spiritual personality. All these hippies, they came before Prabhupada and they were like, I can't go before Prabhupada like this. I gotta shower, I gotta clean up, I gotta do this and that. And then they would learn how to actually associate with a pure devotee of the Lord. So we have to, we got to go through a little bit of a purification. But yeah, because what my wife was saying, there's a goal here. The goal is ecstatic bliss in relationship with the Lord. Ecstasy, always. Can you imagine being blissful always? And it's not even, and what's most blissful is giving Him pleasure. Or giving His associates pleasure. And it's so blissful. Your own pleasure won't even matter anymore. But it's a process. And we have to go through this controlling the senses, the medicine, just like when you're sick. I learned this. As soon as I followed the strict diet, my tongue is almost completely healed. I'm scared to eat sweets again. I'm like, no, my mouth feels so good. I don't want to like chance it, that something could grow back. Let me just try and finish it off. So whatever it is, maybe this will be part of my new program where I should probably avoid sweets if I was having problems. I don't know, or maybe very much moderated. I don't know. We'll see. But this is our program. If we want to experience Krishna consciousness in relationship with God, this is the remedy right here. Controlling all these things and finding under the guidance though of one who is controlled and who's already done this thing. Many people, there are disciples of Srila Prabhupada. There are all across the world. There are disciples of other advanced devotees under the tutelage of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati all over the world who have controlled certain aspects. So we should seek out these people who are completely mastered in this Krishna bhajan, and we should try and learn from them. And they'll teach us how to do all this. They'll inspire us how to move forward. And if say like, oh, I don't know even where to find that, at the very least, you have us here. We'll help. We know we have contacts, resources. We're looking for this thing too. We'll help get you to the next level. We know many different wonderful gurus. We know many different people that'll help you make advancement. There's no limitation on any of you. And then even myself, when I am at a point where I can't, I don't have any answers. I have people I can consult to. I have Shiksha mentors that I can consult to help me make the next step. So this is very valuable. We need this in our life. So take these opportunities. Let's finish this paragraph. There are 6 kinds of rasas, or tastes, and if one is agitated by any one of them, he becomes controlled by the urges of the tongue. Some persons are attracted to the eating of meat, fish, crabs, eggs, and other things produced by semina and blood, and eaten in the form of dead bodies. Others are attracted by eating vegetables, creepers, spinach, or milk products, but all for the satisfaction of the tongue's demands. Such eating for sense gratification, including the use of extra quantities of spices like chili and tamarind. Note that, guys. Prabhupada is not saying so much chili and tamarind. Has to dish down. Is to be given up by Krishna-conscious persons. The use of pan, haritaki, betel nuts, various spices used in pan making, tobacco, LSD, marijuana, opium, liquor, coffee, and tea is indulged in to fulfill illicit demands. If we can practice accepting only remnants of food offered to Krishna, it is possible to get free from Maya's victimization. Vegetables, grains, fruits, milk products, and water are proper foods to offer to the Lord, as Lord Krishna himself prescribes. However, if one accepts prasad only because of its palatable taste and thus eats too much, Kaushik,
Excuse me.
in the other room, remember?
Wrong room.
Yes.
I had to go to the other room.
That's okay. Thank you. So, however, if one accepts prasad only because of its palatable taste and thus eats too much, he also falls prey to trying to satisfy the demands of the tongue. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us to avoid very palatable dishes, even while eating prasad. If we offer palatable dishes to the deity with the intention of eating such nice food, we are involved in trying to satisfy the demands of the tongue. If we accept the invitation of a rich man with the idea of receiving palatable food, we are also trying to satisfy the demands of the tongue. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya 6227, it is stated, Jivara lalasiye iti utidaya, Shishnudara parayana Krishna nahi paya. That person who runs here and there seeking to gratify his palate and who is always attached to the desires of his stomach and genitals is unable to attain Krishna. So this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's conclusion. So you'll never attain Krishna if you're always running to where there's good food or where the opposite gender is or where the person you're attracted to for your genitals. There'll never be any attaining of Krishna if that's where the consciousness leads you. So even here, we provide very good food. The boys made some really nice food. But ultimately, if you're only coming here for the food, you're not going to be able to attain Krishna this way. The food is nice, but you should really be coming for this. This is what's the most important thing is here. Yes. So, anyway, let's end here because I want to maybe do a little bhajan before we end. We'll do some Gauranga Boli Tehabe. I haven't done that one in a while. So,
just thinking of that.
question.
It has the voice. It has like this book has a voice of the key.
Oh, it has it. What is the one? Rupa Raghunatha Pade?
Yeah.
Yes. So this is perfect. Gauranga Bali Tehabe. This might be our bhajan for this nectar of instruction. Or we could do this. I'll practice the Shad Goswami Astakam, and we can do that one next week as well. So very good. Thank you, Meghna, for pointing that out. Any other questions, discussions from you guys before we sing?
What are we saying?
What's that?
What are we saying?
Gauranga Bali Tehabe.
You said it was in that book, Meghna?
There was a verse that the book in the preface it leaves off. Any questions? Any doubts that needs to be dispelled? Are you all in agreement? Or maybe you're...
Prabhu, I have one.
Yes, please.
So, initially we were talking about the tolerance and the anger and stuff.
Yes.
So, I wanted to know because I have come across a situation many times where I try to tolerate the other person, though they would be wrong.
Yes.
I mean, if you were talking in a logical way, they would be wrong, but I would be tolerating. But I mean, do you have reached that saturation point where you cannot tolerate anymore? You know what I mean? Like in certain circumstances where you cannot tolerate anymore.
Sorry, he has to go.
Kashik, Talika is taking you.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Talika.
Krishna.
Thank you for chanting Kashik. Hare Krishna. Kashik, please come chant again next week too.
Maybe see you Sunday.
So Lalita is asking, when you reach a place where you cannot tolerate anymore.
Yeah, like you have reached the saturation point.
Yes.
And
So you should work on having a higher saturation point.
that's like the maximum. But I mean, what happens is when I go back with that saturation point, I'm like, why did I even do that? It doesn't
Yes.
make sense.
Yeah, so you should, when we explode in anger, right, let's say, like for instance, when I get around my family, my saturation point is very quick. I'm like, I can, but it's not that I should blame them. It's not that, oh, they did this to me. It's that actually I haven't mastered my own control yet. I haven't fully been able to control myself. And it's not their fault, actually, because they're just acting out of ignorance along with everyone else in the material world. But it's my ignorance that causes me to react like that. It's also my response to ignorance that causes me to be angry. It's not their fault, actually. It's just they have a certain level of ignorance that you can't tolerate. So that's why we pray, Trinada Pisunichena, Tarora Pisahishnuna, to be tolerant like the tree. When the tree gets chopped, why should someone chops you? How dare you chop me? Right? But the tree tolerates.
So Prabhu, my question is it good to suppress your feelings?
It is good to not to like repress them, but for let's just say I don't know. Let's say you're in an interview, the stakes are high, and the interview person says something that kind of riles you up in anger. What do you think? Would it be good to suppress your anger in that situation? Yes, or you're not or you're not gonna get the job. So so if your professor says something.
Get the job that time and then like suffer later because you're gonna have those discrepancies later.
Yes, this is a mundane example, but yes, we should, but ultimately, unless that person has blasphemed a devotee or blasphemed God, not you, don't count yourself, we should always be very humble. Unless that person has done that thing, there is actually no reason that we should exhibit anger towards them. And it's our own ignorance, actually, that is causing us to react in anger. So we should actually just, like for instance, I'm always doing this. I have to apologize to my wife or I have to apologize to my parents because even though they're totally wrong, in some way, that they aroused anger in me, at the same time, for me to react like that is wrong. That I actually, is my own ignorance playing out, where I can't tolerate and show up with compassion instead of rising to anger. So this is very much, this is part of the controlling process, where you have to learn that, yes, okay, it might be, objectively true, yes, they should, it's probably not good. If they did that to another devotee, I wouldn't have appreciated that. But if they do it to me, we can tolerate, And if you have some position, let's just say, like for instance, some of the boys sometimes, let's say one of the boys was standing up here on the stairs, and listening to the class. Not such a big deal, right? And to me, I can tolerate. But if I have to teach them, I would tell them, like, Tanmay, please actually come sit down, because if there's, say, a speaker of Harikatha and it wasn't me was speaking, it's actually technically an insult to sit above the speaker, something like that, or if you're in a position to actually help them, you could tell them, but in a loving way, right? Or it's just like, it's actually better to sit before in Harikatha rather than standing and things like this, See, like this. But it's not, it's not that I should be like, Tanmay, sit down, what are you doing? It's different, I'm picking on Tanmay a little bit, only because I have that relationship with him, and he can accept that. And to some level, he's accepting me as someone who is teaching him something. But unless that person, like my parents will never teach me, and never accept that from me. And actually, they've taught me so many things, so I have to tolerate. If they're walking in the temple with the shoes, I have to tolerate. If they're doing, my dad wants to, he didn't do any of it this time, but he likes to, Italian men like to kiss other females. And if he's, I try to stop it, because especially Indian women don't like this at all. This is not good. Yeah, but like kissing on the cheek. But this is, he actually was very good this time. I didn't see him do it at all. But, I have to tolerate, so many things. But at the same time, if I do find myself, rising to anger, and a few times it did happen, and they're the best at it. My family is the best. My parents and my brothers, there's no one better who knows how to push every button that I have to rise me to anger. Then no one is better. And my wife's really good at it too, but she's a devotee, so she's like, we can like reach a devotional conclusion where my parents and my brothers, we're not going to get there. So it's like, we have to tolerate, and we have to be humble, and we, even though it may have been wrong what the other person has done, and you may even have scriptural evidence that it was wrong what they have done, you should tolerate it anyway, and you should take no offense, and you should say, it's okay, I'm sorry I responded that way. That's the best thing, and in the future, if someone, it's just a test that in the future you'll be able to tolerate even better, because the goal is to be like a tree and straw in the street, where you don't protest at all. If anyone just does that, you accept that that's what the Lord has done to you. The Lord has actually ordained for this. Okay, the Lord wants me to learn something, wants me to, realize something.
Actually, the example of Sahil and the Airbnb is really nice.
What's that?
Going to the Airbnb and, not asking for the money back and all of that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. So we had a boy here, Sahil, and maybe Sahil will listen one day. But Sahil, he really impressed me. He was staying at an Airbnb, and the Airbnb was very unfavorable for what he was trying to do with his own, actually bhakti practices. And so somehow or other he was telling his workplace that he didn't want to stay there anymore. And he wanted a different accommodation. And Deidre had heard and actually recommended him to come here. So I run Airbnbs. And I know the business ins and outs of the Airbnb. So I was telling him how he could word his leaving so that he could get his money back, or he can get some type of refund. Trying to help him, Right. But he actually said, oh Ramdas, I see that this person in the past, I should give them the money because in the past I may have taken money from them, or I may have taken something from them. So, yes, now I'm paying extra money, but I see it as Ram wanting me to give them money. So I have no problem paying them that money. I don't need to take it. Actually, this was very mature of him, and from that day he conquered me. I said, you can move in here. Because he had the proper understanding, actually. And this is the proper understanding. If someone mistreats us, it's actually, we're only getting compensation for something we've done in the past, or where there's a purification of our own actions that need to be taken place. That's why this is coming, Like, so if your siblings are pushing your buttons, or your relatives are pushing your buttons, or anything, this needs to be there for you to make advancement. Krishna is putting this there for you to make maturity, devotional maturity, so that you can become more tolerant, more loving, actually. But it's uncomfortable. Krishna does so many things to the gopis and the devotees that seem like he's being cruel, but actually what he's doing is he's increasing their love more and more deeply. And he's giving them the deeper facility to respond in love. So that's all he's really doing. But we just have to have a clearer vision. We get so caught up in the emotions. So, and if you have any little scuffle with anybody, let's just say that has happened before, you just humbly apologize and don't make it about anything that they did. Make it about, I should not have responded like that. I'm so sorry, and you move forward.
Usually then they're apologetic too.
Yeah, and then they'll also.
Take that position, but
Yeah.
if you don't, then usually they're not so apologetic.
Yes. So, and then maybe if you're in a very like for instance, like a very.
Because I have come across these sort of situations
I
almost
think
every day in my chemical lab. Like, it's too much. Like, from morning to evening we work. Sometimes even we go in the midnights to take the readings and stuff, and it's so frustrating. And
Yes, you just try and tolerate. And actually the best thing to do is associate, because in the chemical lab, I don't remember if you remember the verse, it's like an assembly of crows. But associate with the swans who are speaking of Hari Katha as much as possible, and then that will allow you to respond like a swan when the crow is bickering and it is frustrating sometimes, but you can maybe just shift your way, maybe take a walk, maybe go say a few prayers, and just come back ready to like, okay.
I think Prabhu, these situations just make you stronger and realize who, like, certain things that are within you that are like bothering you, but these moments are like perfect to like find out what is it in the ego that's exactly like hurting you or hitting you. So, and these moments will come like time and time and again, and like I think outside world will always you will feel that from people, but like it's a very good opportunity for you to realize what is it within me that is the pain point for you to realize. It's an
Yes.
opportunity to realize that.
Yes.
I mean,
Tanmay is, I am in fully supporting what Tanmay has just said. So you if you do like that, you'll have a very good result, and it will be much better for you. And trust me, I know this. Everyone is also dealing. I'm giving you my own practical example. You know, we had my parents here this past weekend, and they're the best at it. You know, in my life, and so my brothers are actually better than my parents even, but you know, we'll get them up here eventually when I'm mature enough to handle it. Krishna has protected me up until this point, but you know, this we have to learn to control these things, and we'll have great success if we do. And all right, so I think we'll stop there. We could probably go on, but please keep coming, Lalita. That will be a huge benefit for you if you can find a way.
Thank you.
Yes, you're very, very welcome. So let's do Guranga Bolite Habe very quickly. Thank you who joined online.